Sicily in the summertime. A little Abarth goes driving on by. You join me sitting on the side of a hill looking at Mount San Caligaro as we're actually hearing an engine coming by. What do we got there? A nice little Porsche 356. I'm back in Assetto Corsa on Abulzz version of the Targa Florio circuit. This is a Targa Florio circuit I took a look at about a year ago, 13 months looking back on videos and everything now. It's been another year, I cannot believe it. But slowly but surely, Abulzz has been working away, and some others involved as well, working away at just making this the best Targa Florio circuit it can be. And it's been long enough now. There's been quite a few updates over the last year, and I fancy to drive around it tonight. So I thought I'd bring you along for the ride. This is going to be just kind of a look around and see what everything's all about as we drive around Sicily. But you can see here on the side of a hill, it is absolutely gorgeous out here. We've got it on a nice blue day, blue sky day, as it so often would be here. Although we do have one cloud on the other side of the mountain, which is spoiling all of it. But just outside the start finish, you can actually see it down there. And I guess we'll end up there eventually. Hopefully I'll make it all around. Nice Abarth driving on by. So this version of the Targa Florio now, we're up to version 0.123. It's an alpha still, as Abulzz describes it, but it's come a long way, and there's still definitely some things to work on with it, as we'll discover. Mostly just missing scenery and textures and things, but as you can see, at least down here near the start finish, and for much of the circuit that I've seen so far, done a little bit of driving on it, it's looking wonderful. And so on this version 0.123 that came out at the beginning of February, they've integrated what's called the track day and AI flood mode for Assetto Corsa, which you might know from some of the other popular free roam maps like the LA Canyons or the Shutoku Revival project. This is a mode that allows there to be basically traffic on the course, and so now you can drive the Targa Florio as if it was just a practice day, which I'll talk a bunch more about. But this is Abulzz version of the Targa Florio. It's available on their Patreon. I want to be upfront about that. It does cost money to get it, but you're supporting Abulzz and the other folks that work on this, and you can donate a very small amount and get access to the current version of it. And I absolutely love the Targa Florio, as you all know, so it's something that I very much want to support. But here's the car I'll be driving today. The Ferrari GTO 250. Wonderful, wonderful car. It's one of the default cars in Assetto Corsa, or at least one of the official DLC packs. But it's spruced up today with a livery from Pasta over at Race Department. Pasta is a user that paints hundreds, if not thousands, of custom liveries for classic cars. Just tons of different liveries, and this is a pretty obscure one. It's from a driver that tried to qualify for the 1963 Targa Florio, so it is a Targa Florio livery, and when I saw it, I knew it was the perfect car for this today. But I think they crashed in qualifying for the race and never actually took part in it, so it's an unraced, rare livery, but the massive Ferrari badge on the side, I think, makes it quite fitting for the race here today, and something that'll be great to lap around the course. All right, so sitting in the car now, and we'll get it started up. I do wish there were start sounds in Assetto Corsa, but one of the few things missing from the sim. And I'll pull away here, and I'm going to do just a nice little lap. So try not to over-rev the engine, but just a nice casual lap. Maybe get up to some speed at some point as we got a nice Peugeot riding on by. But I do have traffic that's so cool. It's going to make this feel so much more alive. The Targa Florio, if you somehow don't know and you found your way here, it was an amazing road race through the island of Sicily that took place for many years, up until the 1970s, really. And this is the circuit as it was modeled in 1973. It's a massive circuit, 72 kilometers around. This will take us the better part of an hour to get around the course itself. And it's just public roads, so on practice days, they did not shut down all the streets of the Targa Florio very often, really just for race day. And there were some allotted practice times as well. So quite often cars would do slow laps, in quotes slow, to just try to feel out the circuit, have the drivers learn the corners. Maybe in some rental cars as well, there's stories of some drivers getting rental cars and driving around just trying to do as many laps as they could to learn it. And there definitely would be pedestrians and people just going about their daily lives in whatever cars they drove, driving around. You hear all kinds of stories about folks coming around corners and there being sheep and cows and trucks and all this type of stuff on the circuit. We won't have too much of that, but we will have some road traffic here and there. I've made it pretty sparse, and I'll share my settings for the road traffic in the description, because by default it was kind of like a traffic jam the whole lap, which wasn't quite as much fun. But Abulzz has some description of how to use it. It's a special version of the circuit here for track day, and there's also a support for a different type of AI, which I haven't tried before, that some folks might like as well. I think the same stuff that Shutoko uses for that map. So really cool stuff. But look at this. Now, I am running pure weather, so if you've come straight from the video I did on this a year ago, or it's the first time seeing it, I'm using pure skies, which I've just got a nice blue day on. Like I said, it's very much what the weather would be like in Sicily in the summertime. Very hot and clear clouds, but it just makes everything feel so vivid. The colors and everything, I think Abulzz has tuned the scenery colors and stuff. There was some texture updates at one point, so it just looks amazing now. So we got another Peugeot here, bright blue. Tried to find some cars. I asked the folks on my Discord about some cars too that would fit for this, and I think I've got some nice ones, mostly Italian, but we do have the Peugeot there. But some 60s AI traffic. You can pretty much use any car that you would want as a AI car. We get all Peugeots in a row, and then another Abarth there. We got them set up to mostly come towards me, although we could catch a car if I speed it up here a little bit. All right, but run around and head up. So we're heading up from the starting area, which I just was in front of over there, and we'll head towards Cerda here. But as you can see, the scenery a lot better colored. There's a lot more objects. There's a lot of pedestrians and things. Got a couple cars there. Ooh, a nice train. A few cars. It's going to make it interesting coming around some of the blind corners, and hopefully cars not being lurking on the other side, but that's kind of the fun of it too. The power a little bit here. Slight straight section. Now, I've raced so many laps around the Grand Prix Legends version of the Targa Florio circuit, and this version of it is scan data. It's using GPS data, LIDAR data. I think they've done some actual scanning now. It's got another little train of cars, a few Alphas. Everybody in Sicily right now is very rich and has very nice cars. I would love to get some like cattle trucks and stuff, just some beat 'em up cars that would fit around here. It'd be a lot of fun to see and race in and out of. The Abarth fits quite nice though, the little Fiat. There we go. Nice car park on the side here, but lots of spectators now and some roadside vehicles and things. Really starting to feel more alive. And that's the thing I notice in this version over the Grand Prix Legends one. I love that version of the circuit to death, and it's what made me fall in love with this event so many years after it's been disappeared from motorsports. But this is really making it feel like a real track somewhere. Just the way the track moves through the landscape obviously is just very realistic, but it also makes me appreciate how close the GPL team was able to get in the creation of that circuit too, because I really do know where I'm going. So we've got a little Abarth there and one parked. That one's static scenery. That's cool how they're both near each other. Makes me appreciate how close the GPL team got off of just photographs and maps and things like that. They did not have scans. So the fact that I know kind of where the left and rights are is really cool. And there are a few differences in this version of the circuit because it is modeled as if it was 1973, the final year of the race in its original form. So especially towards the end of the lap, and I'm interested to see if they've done any work, if Abulzz and team have done any work there. Because there were a few spots that had some missing geometry and things, but we'll see as we get over there. So we're heading up. We're not too far out of Cerda now. Look at the scenery. Okay, here we go, around the corner, and we can see Cerda up on the hill. So this is the first little town of 3 different towns that we'll go through. Lots of spectators hanging around. It'd be cool if I don't know how or if it could be done to animate them a little bit. Oh, that's kind of terrifying now. It's a little bit Group B rally-esque, but I feel it's probably realistic to have folks standing around right on the edge of the road during race day. We'll come into the town itself. This is one of the coolest sections of this course. Down to second gear here, down to first. We'll try to give it a little gusto down the straight shot on Main Street. One car coming at us, but we'll stay to the right side of the road. Accelerate away. I cannot imagine doing this, but I know nobody's going to peek out from the buildings there. This is what it's all about. That is so cool. Get it down to first gear here at the end. Just the even slightly more dense scenery that's in here now just makes it feel so much more authentic. But yeah, if they could make the spectators animate a little bit or walk around even, I mean, I don't know what's possible in Assetto Corsa. It seems like almost anything is. But even static, I mean, I'm going pretty slow, so it's easy to see each individual person. But if you're racing, you're not going to notice anything. Just be a blur. It's quite nice. The detail that they've been putting into all this is remarkable. So we'll come to the top of the hill here. So this is a little village, I guess you'd call it. Contrada Spinizanta, I believe. May just be the church that's called that, but now we'll come up to the hairpin. One of these corners that you learn quite quickly if you try to race this circuit, because you'll crash here the first time through. But a few roads diverge, but we'll take the left-hander and head up the hill away from Cerda. That section's looking quite nice. A couple folks on phones there. I might have to change them out. But now we'll head up the hill and we should get an awesome view. So try not to hit the wall to the right. Should get an awesome view of the mountain. I am using track IR for this, so I'm able to look around, which is perfect for lapping like this. I find it hard to use track IR to do serious racing because you lose the feeling of the car, which is so important in sim racing. There's the big mountain. You can see the ocean off in the distance there, the sea. Sorry, folks get so upset when I call it an ocean. The water, we'll call it water. It's beautiful, bright blue. Got some villas on the side of the mountain here. We'll snake our way around. This to me is the ultimate cathartic experience of just driving your favorite car on these roads. I mean, you don't even have to try to learn the track at all. You can just treat it as you would a real road. Whatever corner's coming up, if you don't know where it's going, back off a little bit. If you can see the road in front of you, accelerate. Now we've got the added surprise of some traffic here and there, but the way I've got it set up, it's really not oppressively traffic heavy or anything. This section's much different than the GPL version. You come over the rise there, and I think in the GPL one you go straight quite a bit, but look at this. So it does use a satellite photo. I'm gonna pull over here for a second. Hopefully there's nobody coming. So this does use a satellite photo, I believe, for the distant terrain. And it's like a flight simulator, really. You got that terrain in the distance, which is a high-res photo of the whole area. That's blended in quite nice. And I mean, in the future, I've seen some mock-ups and some screenshots and things of distant trees that they're testing out. And I cannot wait to see what it looks like with all that stuff in place. Because even with this, it looks really nice. With some more distant objects and things now. Such a passion project this is. All right, pull away. I guess I gotta make sure nobody's behind me too. But such a passion project. You don't work on this. I know, you know, to get it, you have to subscribe to the Patreon, and I think it's worth every dollar, because this is not something you make money on. But I'm happy to support it. So come around, and I think we're coming up to where I had my crash. Of Corsa on the GPL version, but it was a corner like this. I can't remember exactly which one, but it might have been this left-hander on the GPL version of it, but crashed during the HRRC race. I'm still so gutted about that race, especially the Targa Florio for HRRC was the one I was looking forward to the very most. So it's definitely racing to crash out of a race like that. I felt every second of it. Despite winning the championship, it feels like unfinished business a little bit. We'll come around. This was the corner. Understeered straight into the wall on the outside. But today we'll continue on. So this version we've seen so far, a lot of texture updates, a lot of object updates, and then the traffic, which is so cool. But there's more, and there's some really cool stuff in the works that I know of, and who knows what else is going on. But specifically in this version, it includes some custom scripting to race online with staggered starts. So we've got another car coming on by there. I made most of the other cars red so that it fits the scenery quite nice. But you heard me right. There's a custom script that, if you run it online, will do staggered starts. I think it gives each driver an individual countdown. I've not tested it. I haven't really seen it in action yet, but I saw some of the files and things floating around for it. But some really impressive scripting to code a staggered start for this. And I want to look at it some more, and I'm not making any promises, because I've also never hosted a race in Assetto Corsa, but I think it would be really cool to try out. Especially if you have something that can handle the start for you without too much pressure, because doing the league race here was a lot of manual work for myself and Ian and Liam and the other folks helping out with it to get the race moving. We had all kinds of technical issues too with it. But if we had something that just did it for you, so you can basically run a server and do the race without too much of a headache, then that would be amazing. So that's apparently included with this, and it hasn't said straight up that he's doing it, but I think it alludes to that they want to figure out something similar for AI, which we've got the AI to do kind of the track day scenario here, which is amazing. But if we could have some real racing AI to somehow do staggered starts, and AI is a big question mark to me for Assetto Corsa, but I would gladly try it out. And if it can do staggered starts and time the laps and do kind of a time trial that way, it would be so impressive. So there already is a grid to do kind of a spaced out start, but a real timed start would be something else. So it's just neat that they're working on all that, because that stuff is what's going to make this really usable. So a nice GTA there. And not just be a hot lap circuit, although it's a wonderful hot lapping circuit. It's, in my opinion, probably the best one that you could make. So all of that stuff's going to keep making it better. Never mind all the texture work and objects and all this stuff that they're doing for it. Come down here, a bit tighter through this part, I think. The road's very narrow here. See, a lot of detail work's gone into the road as well. There's skid marks and things now, whereas I think the version last I looked at it was very, flat and one-dimensional texture-wise. It's had a lot of work on it now, so it looks really good. Lots of bollards and things the whole way. A lot more trees than there was before as well. That's all stuff, too, that's going to help make the track stick out. It's all the objects that help you understand where you are. Got a couple more alphas coming on by. Going out for a cruise. That's a wonderful car to drive to. If you want something a little less power, although I love this Ferrari here, but if you want something that's a little easier to tame but is perfect around a circuit like this, that little Alpha GTA, also a default car from Kunos, is a really good one. Down to this hairpin here, flat out for a second. Somebody else slammed on the brakes here. I'm actually pleasantly surprised there hasn't been a lot of chaos yet with the AI. It's said to watch out for AI crashing and things. It's a work in progress with the AI line. I can't imagine recording an AI line around here. I've got a video I made about how to make AI lines, and I hope there's another way to do it, because doing it the manual way of actually driving a lap would be a lot of work. But it's a work in progress, I guess, but it seems to be working really well. So we'll come down. I love how this is turning into somewhat of a valley in front. You can get a sense of this is definitely wine country. Most certainly vineyards amongst the farms here. Maybe for olives as well. Not sure what they grow out here. Definitely a lot of livestock and sheep and things, but it's an area I'd love to go. Mentioned before, the roads are mostly still here. There's been more changes since the 70s that they last drove this, of course, and I know there's been some issues with some of these roads. I think even the one we're on right now specifically having some issues with landslides and just not being maintained fully. So I'm not sure it's possible to truly do a full lap, but I think I saw someone recently, somebody taking pictures in Colazzano, which we'll go through in not too long. But the famous hairpin and everything, it's all still there. It all looks very similar. And it's not really, I mean, we all think this is, and know this is one of the big motorsports events and places in the world, but this is not a tourist destination for the Targa Florio anymore. So it's not something where you'd be, a bunch of tourists everywhere trying to figure out where the track goes. You'd likely be the only one on that given day doing it. But I do know they still do some vintage car events around here and stuff as well, and it'd be amazing to go someday. Accelerate a bit. I love all the mountains and stuff in the distance. That's really, you do get mountains in the distance in the GPL version, but there's Porsche just on through the trees there. Yeah, you do see mountains in the distance, but they're all part of the horizon, so they're kind of flat painted in the distance. Looks very nice. Big technical limitation of GPL with stuff like that, but just having 3D terrain everywhere very much brings this alive. All right, we'll come through. This is the really, really tight section. In the GPL version, this is the tightest section on the course. And it seems to be living up to that here, but in a little, I don't even know what you'd call this, cove. I don't see anybody else come through here. But I like the occasional traffic. If you really wanted this to be tons of cars everywhere, you could also just make them run in your direction as well. But the defaults will have plenty of cars around all the time, so you could always have somebody you're following. But it's neat. It spawns traffic as you drive around, so there's not somebody you're just driving with the whole time. It's kind of picking and choosing to make cars appear as you drive through, so there's always somebody up the road, always somebody behind you, some distance. All right, we'll wind our way down to the first set of hairpins. We've gone up quite a ways, but you return back down into a little valley here, or cross the river and everything, and then we'll head straight back up past Sclafani Bagini. Very much enjoying carving through the roads here. You don't even have to go that fast. It's just good driving. And what do we have here? Just make sure nobody's coming. It's that little tractor. It's a little Fiat Tractor 455C. I suppose I should have known that Fiat makes tractors. Lamborghini very famously was first a tractor manufacturer before they started producing automobiles, and still makes tractors, as we all know. But Fiat did as well, and this is a little orange tractor parked on the side of the hill here. These little details are what make it special. Just make it feel like a place that you can drive and that was raced, and it's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, everywhere you look, we got another little car stopped up there. Somebody else driving up on the hill. I don't know if you'll be able to see that. It's quite far away. Oh, this is so cool. Just the slight little changes have made it feel very much more alive. They're really not little changes either. I'll jump back in the cockpit here. Start the car back up. There we go. None of this is little changes. I'm not trying to belittle the massive amount of work that's come into this, but little details like that. Lots and lots of changes adding up to big changes, like all these little bushes and things that have been added on the hills. It's just really, really nice, makes it feel real. So I think up on the hill there, I believe that is Cultivatore potentially, or that might be Sclafani Bagini. We'll see. no reason to guess. There's street signs, I believe. But we'll come over this little bridge across the river and plunge into the woods up here. So I know there's a few more cars up the road. Here's this little red car was parked on the side. So this is one of the static objects, but is very fitting. Perfect placement. So we'll wander away. So this is going to bring us to, yeah, the S's that head up the hill, or the hairpins. Place that was so tricky to do in the 50s cars. It's just, those cars do not like going slow. Tight corners and things. This track was so hard with the 5-liter class that I was driving in the D-type Jag and the Ferraris and things. The Ferrari seemed slightly better to drive around here, but it was not easy by any stretch. But we truly saw the smaller cars win, and that was something that was interesting about this race. And you saw in the later years of it that manufacturers started bringing special cars to this race, and the prototypes especially. There were these shortened versions where you had the long, sleek versions that would race at Le Mans. So come around this tight hairpin. It's nice to be able to look forward and make sure I'm not going to run into anybody. Oh, there's a Mini. It's Pessio's Mini. Looked at before. I don't know if you'd have a Mini Cooper here, but it's a perfect car for it. But yeah, the manufacturers would make special cars for this. All right, so we'll come by. Get one word out before there's something new to look at. So Sclafani Bajni, I believe is how you pronounce it. Nobody's ever corrected me. But we'll continue on towards Caltavettura. I think you would take a right to head up the little hill there and go to that town we saw on the side of the mountain. But go to Caltavettura, and I believe all of this is still the original Targa Florio circuit. Once we get to Caltavettura, that's where the circuit split off for the massive full island loops that they did. Because this is the Piccolo circuit. Believe it or not, the 72-kilometer Targa Florio was the Piccolo, which I believe means small in Italian. So this is the small circuit. Small because the large circuit, the Grande circuit, was the full island, essentially. A lap of the full island of Sicily. There were several different circuits, but one of the versions that was run for quite a few years followed this same route. But once we get to Caltavettura, kept on going on, where we'll kind of curve back. Looks like the buildings there have had some textures added as well to have some signs on them. This is all looking quite nice. There's not any spectators and things anymore around here, but the flora and fauna have certainly been filled in. Lots of road signs and stuff too. When you're racing this track at speed, the road signs are one of your most welcome partners in doing it, especially for the GPL version. I'm not sure if the road sign placement in that version is realistic, or here we go, another sign. Yeah, so that's how you could get to Sclafani Bajni that way. I'm not sure if the road signs in the GPL version have been placed exactly as they were in real life, although I'm seeing a lot of the same stuff, so maybe they were, but they really, really help you know what's coming up next on the circuit. They tell you about sharp corners, they tell you about hairpins. It's all stuff that's good to keep an eye on. Well, Alpha there coming out from behind the corner. Hopefully I can make it through a lap here without running head on into somebody, but that would be the full practice day experience for the Targa Florio, I think. Whoa, a little bit of a lazy slide there. A lot of horsepower. I believe this car only has something like 300 horsepower. And we get another tractor. There we go, waiting on the side of the road. All the farmers leaving their tractors right on the edge of the road. But I believe the 250 GTO only has like 300 horsepower, but it's extremely lightweight, and it's a nice pairing. It's a bit old-fashioned in the weight distribution, being front-engined, but for a 60s sports car, it's kind of your ideal early 60s sports car. Some temporary barriers to keep us on the right path here. All right, another set of hairpins. This is going to lead us up to Coltivatore. I'm just absolutely blown away. I was very impressed last time, and I actually did quite a few laps around this course, but I also, when I was racing for HRC, I didn't want to get too confused between the versions because there are some differences. The Abarth there slides on past. There are some differences, so I kind of concentrated back on that other version, but now that that's done, it'd be fun to get really good at this. I do want to try to take a prototype here and do some crazy laps. See what I could get. We got a truck parked on the hill, so I would love it if we could get some AI driving something like that. Make you have to kind of pull over to get past it. So plenty of room on the bridge there with the little Abarth. All right. But here we go. Coltivatore should be on the hill there. So there's some stuff that is still TBD. So there should be some buildings up there. You can kind of see where they are in the texture, but it gives you a good impression of how the circuit winds its way up here. And if you continue straight there, that's how you would get to Coltivatore itself. And I believe the race continued on that way for many a year. But we'll slide on down. And this is one of my favorite views of the course. I'll take a quick peek here. Why not? I think I did this exact place last time, but it's such a good impression of how much scenery there is. Quite the view. You get a nice view of the hairpins. Oh, we wound our way up. You can look further down. Not sure. Oh yeah, we did come from all the way down there. Ooh, get some kind of sky. Weird sky stuff. That's nothing to do with the track. But yeah, we came from all the way that way. Ooh, and I can hear somebody coming. Not sure where it is. Maybe in front of me. There it is. A little Abarth. Come on by, friend. Brake check himself. He's got the thing hot rodded out too. The rear trunk popped open. Such a nice place though to stop up here on the hill. And yeah, Coltivatore would be up there. And that'll be nice once that's modeled in. I think it'll just add a lot of nice scenery there up on the rocks. You can see some of the houses starting to be put there. But what a place to live. I wonder if it still looks like this. I'm sure not too far off. All right, jump back in our GTO here. So now we'll wind our way down. This is a new road. It's SP24. And so this road is a little bit nicer than the one we were just on. It's a little wider, some more fresh pavement. I think once we get to the bottom of the hill here, it's a little more like a highway, if you want to call it that. Slightly wider, at least. Another car coming around the corner. Oh. This video is going to be me just doing a lot of surprised or shocked sounds. Over here, right on the left, is where some pit crews would service the cars. I guess on a lot of these inlet roads, for the Targa Florio, you really could have crews set up anywhere you wanted, so the top teams didn't just have folks at the start-finish. They had different checkpoints along the circuit so that if their car had an issue, blew a tire, hit something, needed fuel, anything like that, you could just stop on the side of the road in a few different places. You knew your crew was camped out near Colazzano or something, and you could just pull over there and have service done. I believe the driver changes were all done in the actual pits, but other types of service, you would definitely have some crews, at least for the top teams. Big rocks here. I don't remember these rocks from the last time I came through. That's really cool. Gives it some great uniqueness through there. Just feather the throttle a little bit. Really been babying the car so far. It's a great driving car. Got it on the default setup essentially. with slightly longer gears because I do want to see how fast we can go down the highway at the end of the lap. It's always a balance at the Targa Florio circuit for gearing because you're obviously going through all this slow stuff the whole time, and my God, I hope it's as impressive in the video as it is for me, because that is just unbelievable. It's breathtaking scenery. It's really nice. That is so cool. But yeah, the compromise, you can see the highway down there too, actually. So that is the addition in the 70s. That's much different than the 60s. That gray stripe in the valley is a highway that will pass under here not too long. So gearing. Try to stay on one topic without getting distracted, but it's too easy. You have to take short gears for these corners, but you want the really high gears for the long gears for the straight at the end of the lap. So it's always a compromise. But I found that once you get a good setup going, at least in the cars I have raced around here, is you don't really want to be shifting that much anyway. So you usually have a couple gears that you use for all this, and then you might make the last couple long. I was just looking, there's some sheep on the hill there. Alright, this is going to wind its way down the hill again. To a hairpin here. This one always catches me out, or has before. But anytime you see those zebra stripe signs, that usually means it's a tight corner, but this one's tricky because it's actually much later than you'd expect. This is the tight part right here. So it's like a 3 apex corners, another Peugeot. That's a freeware. It's been out for quite a long time. 2016. It was made, but it's available on Race Department as well for free. And it's a 1968 model, I guess, so I'm not sure how many Peugeots there were in Sicily in 1968, but I suppose there could have been a couple. This is quite nice. A lot of vegetation now too. The bushes, there's not just one type of bush either. You got some of these with flowers on them. Just, I can't imagine the mind-numbingness of placing bush after bush after bush. That can't be fun to an extent. I'm sure Abulzz has a nice time making the circuit, but it has to be extremely tedious to place bushes and things like that. So the fact that just as much scenery, so this is amazing. So maybe some of the screenshots I've seen are from here. But I was going to say, I thought there was more distant terrain, and this has a lot of it. It's just giving me goosebumps a little bit just in how detailed and nice it is. You know, it's this place that is never really going to exist again, and it's being recreated in such high fidelity here that you would have thought, you would never have thought we would have got the Targa Florio in sim racing. And to get the GPL version, who could imagine that somebody was going to go do a more detailed version of it after that. Alright, come down. This hairpin's got a truck on the outside of it in the GPL version that I always remember. Curve back around. It's another easy corner to miss. It sneaks up on you when you're really pushing down the hill because all these corners are kind of faster. It would take quite a lot of skill though to get quick with a prototype around here. A 908. So here's the highway on the right side. Still not quite finished, but I don't actually know. So that's one of the things I gotta learn about, how much of the highway was actually done in 1973, because it very well may have stopped there. You see it kind of stop in the distance. I don't know if that's just because they haven't finished modeling it for the track yet, or if it was actually still being built in 1973. I think it was very new. So either way though, it's quite it's an interesting object. It feels almost out of place, but that's really how it would have felt. Coming through this beautiful countryside with these amazing roads, and then you have this monstrosity of a overpass just cutting a line through the terrain. swing our way under it though on the bridge. So the road itself that I'm on is unaffected, but yeah, you can see the huge overpass there. I'll have to read about that though. I don't know when the highway was actually finished. It's definitely there these days. We got a truck pulled over here. It's another cruise area. It's definitely a lot of crews would park themselves over there. All right, so we'll work up this hill. So we should be getting on towards Scalato now, which marks halfway. Not quite there yet. This is a really difficult rhythm section on the course. Just not a lot on the other version of the circuit to tell you where you are, and I think it's just one of those more barren areas. Some great distant mountains. All right, here we come through this long right-hander. The road does continue straight there, I think, to Scalato itself. But we'll wind through a pretty tight forested section. This is something that struck me last time through here, is how much less of a forest this is in this version of it. GPL, it's very, very dense, and I don't know if it's just the scenery being put in place or not. It seems like there's quite a bit more than was here last time, but it's still not that deep forest feel that the GPL version has, so it's just an interesting difference. I don't know which one is more accurate at this point. Just leaving a little space to the left there in case we happen upon a car coming towards me. Another hairpin up here. Some really cool shots of some of the cars in the 50s coming through here. The Testarossa is the one that comes to mind. Curving its way through these hills. There's a hairpin coming up that just has a really nice backdrop. It is neat to learn the circuit enough that when you see photographs, you can tell where they are. It feels a little like a superpower, a useless superpower. So I can tell where photos are in the Targa Florio, but I know a few folks on my Discord, when we share photos that we find of just amazing cars going around here over the years, and kind of pinpoint exactly where they were, the corner that they're on even. I think it's such an amazing way to appreciate the event that we have these digital versions to drive. Because for years, all you'd get were stories and photographs, and there's some very limited video of this event. There is Speedmasters, I believe is what it's called. The documentary of Mario Andretti and sports cars from the early 70s. Some good footage of Vic Elford explaining some of the corners, but it's only a few minutes long in reality, and there's some video here and there, silent video of different races, but it's not something that you could really get a good grasp of the whole event on. So outside of books, I mean, that was really the only way, and now we have, basically you can see the Targa Florio for your own eyes, experience what the circuit was like, and then all those materials, the movies, the books, they all become so much more enjoyable as well, because you read what Vic Elford's saying about the track, and it just makes more sense. I have a little bit of context. So there's our two, the British and the Italian Cooper, as you'd call it. But it's just an impression of it. You never know how close it actually is or how well it replicates it, but it's absolutely a lot better than not having it, and increases the enjoyment so much, and it makes me even more impressed with the real drivers. Watching Vic or Nino, the limited onboard footage and stuff, just absolutely pinning it around this circuit. The amount of experience they had and the confidence to do it in real life is just immense. So much fun. I love this event. I love this track. And I'm so happy with this so far coming through. Coming up the hill, we got through Scalato then, and we'll come around. We got a lot of traffic on this part of the course. Rush hour here in Sicily. We've got a little donkey next to the road there. I don't know if you caught a glimpse of him quickly. But we're heading towards Borgo Eras, which is, it's not even really a town. It's a little village, I think. It's not on most of the maps. But I always think of it as just a helpful landmark to make sure I remember where I am on the course. But it's all working towards Colazzano, which is kind of the end of the mountain section. Use the road. I guess the way you would drive this, especially on a practice day, is you come through some corners. If you can't see the road, like, you really shouldn't take the inside there, because I just don't know if somebody will be around the corner. It's a really tricky little uphill here. That guardrail right there on the left has caused many an incident on the GPL version for me. The road just seems to spit you there. Another tractor. Wonder how many tractors there are. It'd be a fun game to try to find all of them. All right, come up. Here's Borgo Eras, and it's a little hamlet, sleepy little town. A few cluster of buildings, really. I don't know how much of it's here in this version yet. But there's only like a handful of buildings. There they are up on the hill. The building behind me, I think, is all kind of part of it. A farming village. Say the fields of flowers through here is what would make it significant. You can see some flowers there too. That's so cool. Yeah, little flowers here and there. This does support all of the weather effects and things that Assetto Corsa has. Man, there are flowers everywhere. That's so cool that that's modeled in. 'Cause that's what this area is famous for. You read about it. But it does support all the weather effects. So if you set the season, the terrain and things will turn color and all that. Of course, it would never really be like a winter time here. I doubt it would ever. It definitely would not snow except for the very highest of the peaks of the mountains. But this area was definitely green in the spring in the wet season, and then kind of brown throughout the rest of the year. So you can replicate that pretty well. And it's so neat that they can do that without the artists themselves having to create textures for it. They just kind of make a base texture. You can of course swap out things like tree models and all that. And I don't know if Abulzz has done that stuff yet, but I'm sure it would be on the radar for the future. Carve our way up. Yeah, what I was saying about the driving too is if you could see the road in front of you, that could be a time where you can take advantage of it. Like, I've got a pretty good sight line now. Corners are going to the right and then the left, so I could at least right there kind of gas it up and know I'd be relatively safe, but you're always taking a risk. It's definitely not I can't believe they would let cars essentially practice without any issue through here. You read about the very old days. I've been reading some histories about auto racing that were written in the 50s and 60s about the history of racing. So books written in the 50s, 60s that you talk about the old days are talking about the early 1900s, late 1800s, stuff like that. So we'll come through, you can see the sea down there. But they talk about this event in its very early years. There was actually a big concern about pirates, believe it or not, and bandits and things through these hills. And I cannot remember, I should have refreshed myself on the story. I didn't think about it before now, but there was a driver who was scared to practice on the circuit late at night or into the evening because he was afraid of bandits basically coming to rob them or something, and their car did end up breaking down and they had to park it next to the road, and we're so afraid of being stolen from and everything. So it's just crazy. It's the stuff that you don't even think about when you think of auto racing, but it was real life back in the early 1900s when this event first started, and when the track was the full island and everything. A little building there. All right, so we don't have too many more corners to go before we get to Colazzano here. And I'm not sure how much of the last two towns are finished. So last time I went through this, the two towns were essentially just white buildings. Abulzz was still modeling all the buildings and everything. And I believe, I'm not sure how much has been done. I think there's been a lot of modeling work. I do not know if there's been any texture work, so we'll have to see. It's part of the fun. Part of the reason why I'm coming through here today is I just want to see where it's at. And my God, it's been so nice so far. There's a truck up here. Ooh, a truck with an extra trailer on it. It's a dually. That would be a really hard thing to drive around here. Would not want to squeeze around some of those hairpins with a dually, but I'm sure the farmers can do it. This part looks very unfamiliar. Scenery is just a little bit different, and the road, I'm not sure exactly where I am. There's the Mini. He slams on the brakes as well. Pessio's Mini. That Mini would be another nice car to drive around here. Pretty much any car that I enjoy. The slower, the better almost. The fast cars are cool, and once you get good at the circuit, it can be impressive to show, but it's fun just to use this track as a method to experience a car. You're going to learn a lot about a car driving here, and because it's so twisty, slower cars are a little less chaotic to drive. Something like I'm driving here, this 250 GTO is wonderful. Alright, we're really sharply downhill now, and there we are, some buildings, and I believe we're just about to the village itself. Colazzano. And Colazzano is a mountain town and home to some of the most iconic places on the Targa Florio. It does look like a good amount of it. There's the sign of entering. So it does look like it's here, but there's still some work to be done, of course. Interesting, narrower roads here. Oh, it looks very different than the last time I was through here, so he might have gotten rid of some of the buildings as he's working on more of it. Because I believe there should be buildings all the way up that lane that we just went through. And here we go, deep in the narrow streets. I suppose I should watch out for other cars too. I'll swing to the right. Yeah, so no texture work yet on this one, unfortunately, but it's coming. This will be a really cool one to see once all the texture work's done, but a lot of modeling. You can see all these buildings. I mean, he has to build everything. This is not a stock scenery type thing. We'll come up. Here's the hairpin, famous hairpin. A lot of detail in the rock work and stuff, though. It's going to be very, very nice. But it's very narrow. It's a bit more narrow than the GPL version through there. Then we'll shoot at the town. It does look like he put a rock texture on it, so it's not just bright white, which is nice. I'll very much be looking forward to the day that there's some textures on the buildings there. It's still really solid work so far on it, which is good. There's a gas station will be on the right there, petrol stop. A real one, not just for the race, I believe. Full-time one. Alright, we'll exit here. Some more buildings and things need to go in. But this will now lead us downhill. So we'll head towards Campo Felices. We have a Peugeot taking in the scenery. Got them tuned down so they'll drive quite slow, and so they're very much like pedestrians or civilian AI, not race cars. But you could put whatever you want if you want other race cars driving around and stuff. Obviously, you could do that. You can make sure they're all going in your direction as well. Muscle up here. This downhill section is very tricky. Some tight corners in it, as you can see. Scenery once again is very nice though, so it's just that Colazzano area, but there's a lot to do there, so I cannot blame him at all. But the scenery here is good. And what's cool about this version in Assetto Corsa is that you can see the sea the whole time coming towards you. We'll get a good glimpse of it up here, I believe. But you're always working down towards the sea. There's a Porsche on its way by. There there it is in the distance. So that's where we have to go, essentially. So you can judge how far you are down the mountain by that and how close you get to it. And try not to hit any of the guardrails. There's a few corners that sneak up on you how tight they are. I very much don't know. This is probably my weakest section of the course overall, any version. It's just the one you get to the least often with practice because it's so far into the lap. And a lot of the corners look very similar. You maybe think that of the whole circuit if you've never been around here before, that the whole tracks looked like one green and Sicilian blur the whole time. But you do learn all the corners and things, but there's just something about this part of the track that makes it hard. And we had some amazing stuff happen through here as I almost hit that little wall on the inside. That would have been bad. I just have great memories of watching Urne and Oscari battle their way down the mountain at the end of our Targa Florio for HRRC. It was really impressive stuff. 3 laps into the race, just so tired driving and going full out. Everything on the line. I mean, basically risking a win to try to beat one another. I wish I could have been a part of it, really, but it was impressive to watch. I don't know if I would have been able to keep up anyway, so. This section will be really cool to learn a bit more in this. The road has so much detail. Now, if I'm not mistaken, it's not just, like I said, the LIDAR data, which is kind of GPS information, gives you the relative positioning, but it's not that really fine data. But I believe there's actually been some scanning done. I know specifically of the villages, so that's why places like Cerda are so accurate looking, and because they're 3D scans that they've taken and then turned into what we're seeing here. I don't know how much of the circuit has gone through that, though, if it's just Cerda or if it's other sections too, because some of this feels, the road just kind of rolls and is formed to the terrain as these two and their alphas are making their way up the hill. But the terrain or the road just seems to very, very naturally go over the terrain. So it's just really impressive. So we're close to the bottom now. It sneaks up on you fast, and you can see down there, there's Campo Felice right against the water. So that's the town we're going to go through at the end of the lap. That's a really cool town. I don't know if it has textures. I believe it was mostly just white buildings the last time we were through there as well. Textures or not, though, it's a really welcome sight once you're racing around here to work down the hill for so long. See, these closing radius corners are really tricky. Wow. It's definitely worth taking a look at. If you have any interest in the Targa Florio and you have Assetto Corsa on the PC, I highly recommend this. If you want to support Abulzz, he has not asked me to make this video, or I don't even really talk to him, to be honest. So this is just me sharing with you all what I really enjoy, and this is one of those projects that is going to keep me coming back to Assetto Corsa for years. Even long after Assetto Corsa is dead, this track itself, I just cannot imagine it being replicated elsewhere. Maybe it'll be converted to whatever the next newest thing is, but it's so special here. I remember early on, Abulzz had mentioned a R-Factor 2 version. I don't know if that's still on the cards or not. I think for racing, I mean, I love the 50 sports car and 60 sports car mod in R-Factor 2, so it could be a nice thing to have there. But I don't mind the version we have over there too. So whether or not this gets converted, it would be nice to see it wherever it ends up. But I think Assetto Corsa is a really nice sim for something like this, just from the the breadth of cars that we have, and that it's mostly a hot lapping track. And Assetto Corsa is very good at hot lapping, so it's a match made in heaven. A little chance to use the full road there. There's no idea if anybody's going to be coming up the left side of the road. Alright, so we're getting right towards the bottom of the hill. And just a few more chicanes, and we'll see Campo Felice there. Really big valley below, and you can see the highway there just over the guardrail. I believe this is the corner that in the Grand Prix Legends version you start seeing the sea. So it really takes a long time to have it appear for you. There might have been a few corners before that, but it's certainly not the whole distance. And there's the big highway suspended over the land. But here we come around, so we'll finally get to Campo Felice at the bottom of the hill. It looks like there are some textures. Wow. He's done a lot of work here. You would normally fly through this at a really high speed. Just kind of want to take it all in because I have not seen it like this yet. This is so cool. There's still some objects and things, spectators and all that to put, but it looks so much more alive now. Very narrow streets up here. Curve off to the left. Some cars parked in the alleyways. This is very impressive. Look out. You can see around no other traffic right now through here. We'll come up to the this should be a cathedral or a church up here on our right. So we'll swing around. It's a hairpin. In the 60s version, this turns to cobblestones, but it looks like it's not. I don't know if maybe they had paved over the cobblestones by now, but well, look out. This is one of my favorite views on this circuit, on this version of it. Do another quick jump out of the car. I mean, it's like something that you'd see in a magazine. It's a really cool angle to look at things, get all the scenery. The big run down to the mountain, down to the start finish again. Moving on up here. Lots of trees and things. There's still, I don't know how much Assetto Corsa can take. Can he actually put buildings through all that? I'm not sure, but it's plenty as it is right now. And you can see the train coming. Right down there. It's really small right now, but yeah, the road goes alongside of it, so sometimes as you're racing down the highway, you can see the train come by. But here's the square. So there's the cathedral. I wasn't able to see it as I drove on by, but really impressive stuff. I'll come zoom out a little bit here in the town. I mean, the amount of work involved. It looks. They always look kind of funny from above because there's so much more that you could add to it, but the from the driving view, it's really nicely done. So all the buildings are there. They seem mostly textured now, and it's mostly just the little spectators and cars and all that additional cluttering stuff, but really coming along nice. And this exit here sweeping along the ocean front. What do you say we throttle up and head down the highway? So not much more to go now. Come away from Campo Felice. I enjoyed my stay. Alright, but not many corners down here. Oh, there's a car. I was just about to say I haven't seen much traffic. These little Abarths struggling up the hill here. Get down to first gear. Lazy oversteer. It's an interesting feeling, this car. If I'm in first gear, I can get this kind of weird slide going. Not making a fool out of myself yet. I've made it most of the lap without hitting anything. We'll see if I can get through the end here without spearing a guardrail. It's known to happen in the run down the hill here. It's so easy to go a little too fast because you really think you're home and you're not quite home. All right, but we'll swing on to the highway itself. I suppose there won't be any merging traffic today. Oh, and there's the train. Perfect timing. That is unbelievably cool. So I'm trying not to run into the guardrails. That is so cool. little stuff like that is going to make this a very special version. All right, up to 4th gear though. I'm actually not sure how many gears this car has. I've only used 4 so far. Does it have 5? It does. So blast past the Peugeot there. So down the highway, and it looks so much different in this version. So another little Abarth. This is a cool experience. Blasting past the cars. Realizing I haven't ever caught a car this whole lap, but there are some traveling in my direction. I've just been going pretty slow. But flat out then, I'll let you enjoy the sound for a moment. Underneath the overpasses, these are some additional overpasses that were added, supposed to not disrupt the traffic on the highway. But we're going to come up to Buonfornello, which is a very, very tricky part of the course. A bunch of cars are passing. Here we come into the village itself. I'll get on the brakes nice and early because I have no idea where the braking markers are for it. But this is a Mazda Kink-esque set of corners, and we do have a Porsche in front here that I'll have to swing around. I was hoping for a little bit more of that, but I could tune the AI to have a little bit more to pass. But yeah, it's a Mazda Kink-esque corner that, when taken at speed, requires a lot of precision and guts because you're right at the end of the lap, and it's so easy to have a massive accident there. But through Buonfornello, all right, we'll come to the end of the highway. And I always mentally feel like I'm at the end of the track, but there is a good amount of corners up here that are not easily flat out or anything like that. I've resumed the way this track is. I thought the Peugeot had some blinkers on. There's a bunch of cars, past a lot of cars coming down. I did set them up to have more cars coming at me than with me, but maybe go back on that just a little bit. All customizable. It's very cool, the traffic system. Alright, sun. Late afternoon here. The sun will start going down fairly soon. It's a whole other type of experience at night around here. They never raced this track at night, but you could do it here. Saw the train for just a second down there. Very busy rail line. Down to 1st gear is a couple hairpins. That one's the less severe one, and here's the tighter one. So still some work to do with some scenery and things here. There's a lot of detail to be put in towards the beach down here, but very, very impressive stuff. We've got an Abarth headed in my direction ahead, so we'll have to try to figure out a way around without going head on into somebody else. Some here, nice and easy. Got the power to do it. All right, so San Calogero looms ahead, and just a couple corners. I think we're going to come around here to the rail station, and this is where in the old GPL version and all the conversions of it that you have the garages. So right off to the right there is where you have all the garages, and it's actually where a lot of the teams would work on the cars on, not the race day. Just a lot more space down here, I think. And we've got the train coming into the station as well. We're blasting on through. I thought the train was going to be a bit more rare, but it's all over the place. And then we'll come to really the final corners of the circuit. Up to the start line. We weren't at the start line proper at the beginning of this, so I'll show it off a little bit here. But lots more spectators and things, so I have to imagine he'll continue to put those around the track, and as he continues to fill in all the crazy amount of objects and stuff. But thoroughly enjoyed that. Very, very much enjoyed that. Look at that, Fiat Abarth Rally. Really, really impressive stuff, Abulzz. And if you happen to see this, just keep on the good work, because this is going to be very enjoyable for many, many, many years. As we'll see the pit complex. This is all still somewhat here. but I believe it's up to be potentially torn down, just with other things needing to be built here. And so the start-finish area on the Targa Florio circuit. Hope you enjoyed the runarounds here. The nice slow lap and just some enjoyment of it. Targa Florio circuit. So much work has gone into this, and definitely feels like a year's worth of effort. And I think it's just going to keep getting better as more and more detail is added, and with all of the interesting things as well. I didn't expect there to be this traffic AI or the work that they're doing to do the multiplayer start system. And if they can figure out something with an AI start system as well, it's just going to add a lot to this already impressive and amazing circuit. So I hope you enjoyed it. Go visit Abulzz Patreon. I'll put a link in the description if you're interested in supporting him and trying this out for yourself. And I'm sure there'll be another update in the not too distant future. But until then, this is GP Labs, and I'll see you all again next time.